The fallout from the federal opposition's compromise on native title laws in Queensland widened considerably today. Already under fire from Indigenous groups and forced to replace its Aboriginal Affairs spokesman, who resigned over the issue, the Labor Party was also targeted by the federal and Northern Territory governments.
A second day of criticism for the opposition over the native title compromise.
It's the very people that Labor say they're interested in protecting that suffer the greatest harm.
Your Queensland mates get a half-baked deal that delivers some political satisfaction to Mr Beasley and Mr Beattie, but nothing to anybody else.
The opposition backed key elements of the Queensland Labor government's native title legislation, which allows Aboriginal people to negotiate only on high-impact mining and exploration. It angered Indigenous groups and the mining industry. And the country Liberal Party-run Northern Territory government has accused Labor of helping its mates, a year after refusing to grant similar provisions to the territory. The government will submit the legislation again before the end of the year, but Mr Burke warns another rejection could be an election trigger.
I'd ask the Labor Party federally to show the same consistency that they showed with regards to Queensland and allow our low-impact exploration procedures to progress.
Opposition leader Kim Beazley, meanwhile, defends yesterday's agreement.
What we've acted in is the public interest, and part of the public interest includes protecting the gains that the Aboriginals made in 1993 in regard to the right to negotiate.
Internally, the Labor Party is trying to regroup after Daryl Mellom, the shadow Aboriginal Affairs Minister, resigned in protest. Carmen Lawrence is the front runner for the vacant spot.
She frightens the pants off many of the Howard government ministers.
I think she's wasted on the backbench, quite frankly.
Dr Lawrence stepped down from the Shadow Ministry more than 3 years ago to face criminal charges over a Western Australian political scandal. She was eventually acquitted. Fiona Pye for Nightline.
Sydney identity Louis Bayer has faced court, charged over a shootout in a suburban restaurant early last month. Bayer is still recovering after being shot 3 times in the legs and groin. Police allege it followed a confrontation between Bayer and another man. A 17-year-old was caught in the crossfire. Bayer has been charged with discharging a firearm with intent to inflict grievous bodily harm and possessing an unauthorised firearm. Bail was refused. A New South Wales prison escapee has been jailed for a month for selling fake AFL Grand Final tickets. Stephen Scanlon pleaded guilty to taking money from an Essendon supporter in exchange for forgeries. Tanya Amato answered a newspaper ad and handed over $1,400 for 6 tickets. When a friend pointed out that the tickets were too thin and had smudged printing, she contacted police, who set up a sting, arresting 24-year-old Scanlon. 2 weeks ago, he escaped from a low-security section of Long Bay Jail. Jelena Dokic has had an unsettling day at the US Open. Her father once again causing an embarrassing scene before eventually being banned from the rest of the tournament. It could prove the final straw, with moves afoot to bar him from the entire women's tour.
It was a day that should have been remembered for Jelena's first-round doubles victory, instead spoilt by the antics of a rambling father. Thrown out of the players' lounge, it only got worse for Dokic Sr. when he returned to be met by security.
He was complaining about the price of the food, from what I can understand, and then he just started using profanity.
Clearly no longer welcome, Damir Dokic was manhandled to the players' car park. The ugly drama unfolding before Jelena, who could only stand back and watch. By now, Flushing Meadows officials were running out of patience.
You leave or you're under arrest. Take your choice. Listen to me.
He was finally persuaded to leave. Later, almost incoherent, he conceded how the incident had affected his daughter.
She's very upset. USA Open is crime organization.
Back at the Open, there was plenty of sympathy, but only for Jelena.
How is she supposed to play her match tomorrow being, like, she started crying over there, like, why are they doing this?
And it's not as if it's the first time. Damir was reportedly drunk when evicted from Wimbledon after a fight with a journalist. But there's no doubt who is the real victim.
I feel sorry for her because she's, I mean, what is she, 16 still? She's just so young. She should be enjoying herself, but, I mean, it's tough.
Brad Schmidt for Nightline.
Olympic security procedures had more than a test run this morning when a suspicious package was found on a crowded suburban train in Sydney South. The bomb squad was called as 800 passengers were evacuated from the train. City Rail says it took them 10 minutes to clear the train and surrounding buildings. After examining the package, bomb squad officers fired a shot into it. Olympic security staff say they passed a crucial test of their emergency procedures. The medals for the Olympics have been getting a buff at the Canberra Mint as they're prepared for presentation. Predictions are that a handy swag of the medals, as many as 60, including 20 gold, will remain in Australian hands at the end of competition.
It's an Olympic Aladdin's Cave, a secure, discreet room locked away in the heart of Canberra's Royal Australian Mint, holding possibly the country's most valued treasures of the moment. Olympic gold, silver and bronze, the final audit and packing of Sydney 2000 medals.
We have the men's 4x100 metre relay, men's 4x400 metre relay.
For SOCOG Sandy Harding and her medal team, this has been a 2-year project, and for the past 3 days, they've been locked away in the Mint, making sure every medal's ready.
It's been fantastic, actually. I mean, we think we've got the best job of Games time.
In all, 2,042 medals will be won during the Games. But just in case anything goes wrong, another 1,000 backups have been minted. They'll be destroyed after the Games. During the audit, each has been engraved meticulously, checked and rechecked, then finally given a quality control approval. Some of these trays hold very special gold.
Swimming, women's 200 metre butterfly.
So we've got a Susie O'Neill potential here. Right next to it, the women's athletics 400 metre gold, the one Kathy Freeman eyes. There's Ian Thorpe's ambition, the 400 metre freestyle gold, and the one Michael Clem and Alexander Popov will do battle for, the 50 metre gold. So after they're packed and polished and locked away in this vault, the exact movement of the medals becomes a very big secret. In fact, only 6 people in SOCOG will know when they're removed, how they'll be transported to Sydney, and exactly where they'll be stored during the Games.
That's a very big secret, and that's something that...
Michael Usher for Nightline.
A sad moment today during the Olympic torch relay with the death of a 74-year-old runner. Ron King, seen here receiving the torch from his son Michael, died of a heart attack just minutes after his run at Muswellbrook in the New South Wales Hunter Valley. Earlier, it seemed every man and his horse gathered at Scone, breaking the world record for the most horses ever assembled in a parade. 900 mounts lined the New England Highway. Tonight, the torch arrived in Tamworth, where 5,000 people gathered to watch the lighting of the cauldron and, of course, listen to some country music. After the break, new hearing test for babies and the latest Diana conspiracy theory being pushed by Dodi's father. Sir Richard Branson's venture into Australia's discount air war finally got off the ground today. Virgin Blue took to the skies for its inaugural flight between Brisbane and Sydney. Nearly a month late because of approval delays, the no-frills airline joins Impulse in going head-to-head with Ansett and Qantas. Virgin's cheap flights will extend to the Brisbane-Melbourne run in October. A baby's birth is a time of joy and worry. Among the concerns for parents is whether the baby can hear properly. But today, the first phase was launched of a national program to test the hearing of every baby in the first few days of life.
This long-awaited pilot program has only been possible by bringing together audiologists from Sydney Children's Hospital to offer free tests to all babies born at the Royal Hospital for Women.
And they're well above the normal line, so it's passed.
And because of this portable technology, so accurate it gives a full reading when a baby is just 48 hours old. It's funded by the Shepherd Centre, which has pioneered early testing because after a child reaches 4, the game can be lost if hearing aids or cochlear implants don't introduce sound.
If the brain doesn't get sound coming into it, it doesn't make the necessary connections, and the pathways that should have been set up are taken over by other senses like vision.
Hearing impairment and deafness are probably one of the most common congenital problems affecting babies, yet only 14% of those needing hearing devices will actually have them fitted by the time they're 1 year old, and that's because of a lack of coordinated screening. 6-year-old Samuel had a cochlear implant at 2 and is now in a mainstream school.
My favourite thing is playing soccer. It is really important that they get diagnosed early.
But specialists who've despaired at not being able to help some children say the program is a dream come true.
I just think it's revolutionary. It'll make a significant difference to their quality of life.
The Shepherd Centre plans to fund the technology to launch a national newborn hearing test. Cheryl Taylor for Nightline.
Police in the Colombian capital Bogota have clashed with students protesting against President Clinton's visit to their country. One officer was killed by an explosive device. However, the president was hundreds of kilometres away with Colombia's leader at a resort on the country's Caribbean coast. There was a near disaster in Paris when an underground train derailed and flipped onto its side as it approached a station. The train skidded to a stop just a metre from other carriages travelling on the opposite track. Dozens of people on board the derailed train were injured, but none seriously. Authorities don't yet know the cause, but they've ruled out excessive speed. Protesting French fishermen have blockaded the Calais entrance to the Channel Tunnel in a second day of demonstrations over fuel prices. Thousands of British holidaymakers have been stranded. Some tried to force their way past the blockade.
We want to go home. We want to go home.
Other Atlantic ports have also been choked by protesters, as well as Marseille on the Mediterranean. The French government says it will now take measures to ease fishermen's fuel bills. Mohammed Al Fayed has stirred new controversy over the death of Princess Diana and his son Dodi by resurrecting his conspiracy theory, this time blaming the CIA. He's taking legal action against the American intelligence organization, claiming it has evidence that the couple was the victim of a plot.
The Harrods owner has long argued the crash in the Paris tunnel was no accident but murder.
I'm appealing for the support of the American people to help me obtain justice.
Mohammed Al Fayed's passionate plea was followed by his lawyer's demand for America's security agencies to come clean. They insist the CIA, using sophisticated satellite systems, had been monitoring the Princess of Wales. It's alleged the intelligence service compiled a 1,000-page dossier which includes transcripts of telephone conversations between Diana and Dodi Fayed.
I believe they are withholding some of the documents at the request of the British Secret Service.
They could never have accepted my son, a naturally tanned, curly-haired Egyptian, being married to the mother of the future King of England.
The conspiracy theory has been widely ridiculed here in the United Kingdom and already across the Atlantic. These new allegations of a cover-up are being discounted, with the CIA declaring the claims are totally unfounded. Damien Ryan reporting for Nightline.
In a moment, today's US Open action, why America's swim team envies the Australians, final training for the AFL showdown, and the end of Tanya Van Heer's Olympic hopes. Now to sport, and a better day for Australia at the US Open. Mark Philippoussis and Richard Fromberg winning through to the next round. Fromberg needed 4 sets to defeat George Barstool, but Philippoussis clinched a victory in straight sets.
Philippoussis let nothing stand in his way, least of all Portis.
Oh, brilliant shot.
Not even bad line calls fazed him, though replays made Newcombe sound more like McEnroe.
Oh, umpire, come on, how can you miss that? Give me a break.
Philippoussis took everything in his stride, even a fall. The Spaniard not up to pace on the Australian's ground strokes.
That's a beauty. That's a great shot.
The 1998 finalist won in straight sets, and with Pat Rafter and Gustavo Kuerten out, has a clear shot at the quarterfinals.
Yeah, well done.
I feel like if I take my time and, you know, I'm enjoying myself out there and I'm there mentally, then I'll be dangerous.
Being relegated to number 4 seed hasn't loosened Pete Sampras's grip on Grand Slam tennis. Just ask Justin Gimelstob. Sampras serving out his straight sets win with 4 aces.
Thanks for coming.
He did it, 4 in a row.
Number 1 women's seed Martina Hingis raised even less sweat to down Christina Brandy 6-1, 6-1. Hingis may have been the evening star, but Venus Williams was daylight saving.
Welcome to the Williams Show.
Yeah, taking just 48 minutes to down Kavita Hadlichkova 6-1, 6-1. Monica Seles also through to the third round, defeating Anne Kramer 6-3, 6-4. Andrew McKinlay for Nightline.
To AFL, and Essendon will take an unchanged team into Saturday's grand final. Changes are also unlikely in the Melbourne lineup, who had their last training run today in front of a big crowd.
Players arrived hiding nerves. Another night, another training session. When they emerged from the rooms, all eyes turned to the hamstring of Cameron Bruce, needing to prove to himself, but more importantly Neil Danaher, he was right to play.
Look, I'm really confident he'll be okay, you know, so you're probably reading in it a bit more than what he is, actually.
He stretched out under the pressure of the moment, looking a little short at times. Another with a question mark over his head, President Joseph Gutnick, who had been invited to join the players in tomorrow's grand final parade, given that his Jewish faith doesn't allow him to be there on Saturday.
I thought that's more appropriate that the coach and the players participate in the parade, and I'll be amongst the crowd cheering along.
But if Gutnick thought that was a hard call, sticking around at training became an even tougher one. Not even a ferocious driving rainstorm could dampen Melbourne's enthusiasm as they went through a brisk hour-long session. But everyone stayed put to see Bruce make it through, along with his teammates. He survived and will be named in what is likely to be an unchanged lineup. Stephen Pitt and Ben Beams, the most probable of the emergencies to come in if any query lingers over Bruce tomorrow. And Essendon continued its habit of worrying less about the opposition and more about its side, announcing an unchanged lineup. Darren Buick named, while Sean Denham hopes for a miracle. Anthony Mithen for Nightline.
The Olympic hopes of Tanya van Heer have been crushed, the sprinter failing to make it into the Australian track and field team. She was unable to convince selectors she had recovered sufficiently from a string of injuries.
Van Heer had so much ground to make up after missing the selection trials because of the Achilles tendon injury. On top of that, her work in camp this week was judged as only fair.
The facts of the matter is that her injury stopped her getting to the sort of shape that we know Tanya can be in.
Van Heer had hoped to be part of the 4x100 relay team, but that's now a dashed ambition.
Despair can sometimes turn you into a better athlete, and hopefully Tanya can come back better than ever.
And a disappointing jolt for the Australian cycling team, with dual Olympic bronze medalist Brad McGee having to undergo surgery on a broken collarbone today after falling during road practice. But the 24-year-old is defiant that he won't miss the games.
Oh, definitely. I mean, this isn't going to stop me. I only need an arm for the first 3/4 of a lap anyway. The rest of it's in the legs.
McGee plans to join the Australian team at a final pre-Olympic camp in Rockhampton this weekend. And age does not weary the amazing Merle Notti. The 40-year-old Jamaican sprinter ran the fastest 100 metres this year at an Olympic warm-up meeting in Greece. The 5-time Olympian clocked a time of 10.99 seconds. Ken Sutcliffe for Nightline.